Yeah, welcome to the second part of our video with Joris Hoogsteder, a Dutch composer living and working in LA. And in this second part, we're going to talk a bit about his collaboration with Austin Wintory, a Grammy-nominated composer. For people who don't know who Austin Wintory is, can you quickly introduce him?
Cool. Austin is an amazing composer. You might know him from the really cool indie hits Journey from back in, I want to say 2013. That was like just a perfect storm, like an indie game, small team, and it just like blew up. It was like a viral game. And so was his awesome score. He was doing a lot of like very innovative stuff in terms of adaptive audio. Basically, you could play the game like millions of times and never hear the exact same score because he was doing a lot of cool stuff with, different layers blending in, and depending on where the player was at and like how they were playing the game, or there was like sort of like a soft multiplayer component to it. And depending on if you were with the player, then you would get different themes as well. Austin's been doing that kind of really cool, unique scoring ever since.
How did you meet, and how did your collaboration start?
Our collaboration started through my employer, Adam, from Moonwalk Audio. So there was a project, and Austin was like, I could use an extra hand for some production work here. It was about like doing some cool hip hop beats. And Adam was like, well, I got a good guy for it. I can help out real quick. If we did a project together, I was like, okay, this is super cool. This came out great. Nice to meet you. And then, I don't know, like 4 months later, I just got an email from Austin saying like, hey, I had a really good time on that one project. Can we do another game together? And we just worked on the John Wick game, John Wick Hex. And basically, ever since, we've been working on basically every game or film he's working on.
And what's your role in this collaboration?
Depends on the project, really. Often what I do is, it might sound funny, but I make a lot of ear candy. Austin will have a project and he'll have his cues, and then he just sends me his cues and say, what would you, what would you add? What sort of patches, like what kind of synth stuff would you add to this? Because there's some kind of like cool music production things we can add to this. If you look at our work that we did on the Lego Fortnite game, it's a very calm, serene score. So a lot of the things that I'm doing there is just like making these beautiful shimmering pads and making really nice like little plugs and stuff like that. And sometimes we work on loud stuff, and I'm just I'm doing a lot of percussion work, and I'm doing a lot of like big synthesizer work. When we work on film scores, I do a lot of arrangements, and I do a lot of like additional music here and there, like write a cue. And it's like a very collaborative thing. On Stray Gods, which is a video game that we worked on together that got Grammy-nominated last year, I co-produced all the music for that. So it's a musical video game. So
yeah,
musical in a video game.
It's really interesting because there's a really high level of adaptivity in the music, I believe. In that
yes.
game. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Can you tell us a bit about how that works? What the role of music is in this specific game?
Stray Gods is a musical, sort of like a graphic novel musical video game. That's a whole mouthful, but that's basically what it is.
It's not a musical, it's a video game with a musical theme.
Yes. Sort of, and the easiest way to describe it is like a choose your own adventure, but it's a musical. You're in this game, and every time a song starts playing, you will have choices to make of where you want it to go. And it's a role-playing musical. You are in the director's seat, right? So say a character starts singing, we get to the first chorus, and you choose your option, and the music just seamlessly goes to that option. Yeah. Sometimes you don't have a lot of choice, but most of the songs you have just like, I don't know, at least 7 or 8 like moments of where you can make a choice. And we basically had to produce music for every choice. And it was a lot.
There's a video slide you shared with the decision tree.
Yes. So this is a graph that was made by Dallas Crane. Dallas is Austin's assistant. And so I figured it might be helpful for viewers to understand. Yeah. And we can play a couple fragments of this as well. This is, I think, like the first true song where you get to make decisions. And so we always have a red, a blue, and a green option, right? And the red is always kick-ass, high attitude. And then there's clever, and then there's charming, or it's empathetic. It's kind of like, I'm feeling for you.
How the hell did you find me? This is the weirdest night I've
Then
ever
it
had.
goes back to
And you say I have
the hub, the
powers?
white hub.
How could this
And so
possibly
there's no
turn out
branching off there
bad?
yet, right?
I don't follow. Are those really actual horns? And this
So then
singing is
you can
so
make another
hard to
choice, then you
follow.
get 2 verses
Can you
of that
hear me, Grace?
particular
What's going
trait
on?
that you chose.
Grace, I have a bad feeling that grin is a giveaway. That much is clear. What is this creep concealing? How does he know you and why is he here? Freddy, this map is uncharted. Let's hear him out. I know how you feel. Grace, have you gone delirious? Stranger danger could not be more serious.
And then it goes back to a hub. But from there on out, after verse 3, it actually starts branching out.
Morning's gone and
Is that gonna be here all the time?
And even within the red trait, for instance, on the left over there, you get a red, blue, or green choice. But those red, blue, and green choices are all influenced by the red trait that you chose earlier.
this is a dream, then it's gonna be my time to shine.
Yes.
This is my time.
What does branching out mean in a musical context? Does it become
Okay.
a different, an even more different arrangement? Does it become like a completely different song?
Yes, any of these takes are different arrangements for sure. Sometimes there are some overlapping lyrics, but most of the time it's just a completely different verse. So you'll
Also
often
in,
see that.
in terms of lyrics also.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
There's
Okay.
the lyric sheets are just like pages and pages
Yeah.
long. You know, it's a narrative, so you have to you have to make sure that every branch, every direction you go also narratively makes sense. Each trait has like an overarching genre. If I remember correctly, is that most of the high attitude red stuff was a little bit more, like bass heavy, like very like a little bit more like rock band type thing. Clever was a little bit more jazzy all the time. The most leading instrument, I would say, in the clever trait was a clarinet. That was usually the instrument signifying that trait. Then we had the green one that was more like harp and just like a little bit more ethereal sounding.
What are you doing?
So as you can see on chorus 2, we had, for instance, like a blue one with a red outlining. And basically that means that it was a blue verse or blue version of the song, but then still with some instrumentation of the red traits, right? So we had to like take those into account as well.
Grace, without me, you'll be totally at sea. Grace, and I'll be the friend you can use. What's wrong with the both of you?
It's narratively sort of a tutorial, but also for the player, like, okay, this is what we're doing.
You also worked with Austin on Aliens Fireteam Elite.
Yes.
It's a third-person survival game set in the Alien universe. How was that? Can you tell a bit about that cooperation?
I mean, I worked with Austin on that. So Austin was the main composer on that. And I did a ton of like synthesizer work. And I did a lot of like percussion work. I used this really cool drum system called sensory percussion. Sensory percussion is is sort of like a hybrid electronic drum instrument where you can map samples throughout your whole like drum kit, instead of like the traditional electronic drum kit, where it's like you hit the snare drum and the snare comes out. It's on this system, I can basically map samples across the entire drum. So like the system knows whether I'm playing in the center or on the edge or on the rim. With that, I was able to map alien sounds in a very percussive way. We were doing things like just me playing doubling snare drum rhythms with like actual alien sounds, but using the envelope to make it very plucky and percussive, but it would still like add like really weird like slithering textures to the score and that kind of thing. And then I was doing a ton of like synthesizer tracking and just making cool Moog sounds basically.
We have a clip of Austin and you talking about the collaboration on this project. Let's have a look.
Cool.
That's sounding really nice. On top of that, the only part that was missing was that there's a few places, especially towards the end of the cue, where I've got some simple kind of rhythmic arpeggiation and things like that going on, and was working with this absolutely fabulous musician and composer, Joris Hoogsteder, and said, can you basically double my arpeggiation and help create some interesting textures and colors of your own there.
So here we have a version of the cue before the orchestra was recorded. And when I get this project, it's my job to listen to the synthesizer sounds, think about what I could make to support the parts and not get in the way of the composition. So then I record and I create a couple synthesizer layers for Austin to mix and match to taste. So, and since we're working in the aliens realm, we found it very important that the synthesizers should never sound static. They kind of have to feel alive and slithering and have to be moving in some kind of direction.
And one of the things I've been experimenting with as I mix this is making it kind of stir the pot and move around. So you can see I start off with the volume pretty low on the arpeggiation so that you mostly are hearing the strings chopping away, you're hearing the percussion, the sort of traditional orchestral percussion above all, and all these various layers of tom playing bass and the rest of it is pretty low in the mix. And then we kind of bring some up and others down, and it does this sort of sleight of hand where your ear doesn't really detect that. It kind of mutated into a sort of electronic piece right in front of me without noticing entirely. The only other thing that's missing is the all-important snare drum, which I'm blending a bunch of different things, including a pass that Yorus actually himself played. I mostly mix with the snare disabled though, because in-game, the whole idea is that this is a separately toggleable element. We bring it in when we really want to kind of show the shit hitting the fan and evoke that Marshall kind of James Horner Aliens snare drum thing. It's just taking forever. And I think I'm possibly going deaf, but we're getting there, having a blast. So
Wow, it's really cool to hear you both talking about collaboration.
Yeah, I'm always having a blast, and I work with Austin probably every other day, or like there's something going on every week, and there's always a new way of thinking about sound and a place of sounds in a score, or like an approach. It doesn't really matter whether we do a Lego Fortnite game or we do a horror movie. There's always like something that sticks out as being like, okay, well, I haven't really thought about this way of music, ever. So it's,
With the Alien game, was the sound that you and Austin made in any way influenced by the original soundtrack for the films by James Horner? Like, is there like a sonic universe that you felt it needed to belong to, or did you taking it a step further? Or
that would be more of an Austin question. But I know that Austin is a big fan of like the original Alien soundtrack and Jerry Goldsmith. The Alien soundtrack, the sequel, was done by James Horner. It's an homage to the originals. I don't think it was ever trying to replicate anything. It's like, okay, well, there's these woodwinds things that are like definitely reminiscent of the original soundtrack, but it never sounds like, oh, we're trying to do this thing here,
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.